Hey there. Welcome to Upptalk. In this video, we're gonna learn what Ginger automation is and what is it all about. But before that, let me introduce Upptalk to you. Upptalk is an online training platform that provides live, interactive training sessions led by industry experts. With Upptalk, you can gain hands-on experience with real-time case study assignments and access reference material to help you succeed in your career. Before we jump into the subject, don't forget to like, share and subscribe and get notified on our important updates. Let's start with what is Ginger automation? Ginger is a leading open-source automation platform that leverages the benefits of DevOps, agile development methods, and cloud migration. In this video, we'll walk you through the concepts: what is Ginger automation? Contents and automation overview. Why Ginger? Ginger overview. Now that you know the agenda of the video, Mr. Pratik will take over the session now.
So we can start. So this is the Ginger is the one of the best tool to choose the new project. So because it supports the multiple platforms, not only in one platform. So when we go with the Selenium, it supports only web applications. So that is this tool is supporting multiple platforms. So we can automate all the back end, front end, and window based, Java based, all the applications. So you will come to know going forward. And so let's start.
Okay, so
Okay.
just give a quick overview and quick some things about the automation, and then we can maybe start with going through the deck what we have prepared. So the first question arises in our mind, like when we do testing, okay, when we have a testing task in our project. So what comes first in our mind is like how we can leverage the manual efforts, right? How we can enhance the scope, how we can minimize the mistakes or the things which can be causing our application to get failed. Okay, so these kind of things came in our mind when we first try uh, to basically plan for testing. Okay, so that all things comes in our mind, and when we go through inside it, like we analyze what is the challenges, what are the difficulties in our application, how we can achieve the testing. So in that front, the automation plays a very crucial role here. Okay, so when it comes to automation, the thing comes in our mind is like which tool we are using to use the automation. So like there is a lot of tools in the market, lot of open source, lot of licensing tools are there in the market, which you can prefer. Okay, so the question first arises is which tool we should be opting for. So one thing is a tool, another thing is a language. Which language in you will be writing the code or you will be writing the scripts. Okay. And the third things which later on comes up on is framework. So these three are the building pillars when you are setting up an automation in your team. Okay. So you need to be very much clear in mind which tool you will be using, which language you are preferring, and the third one is which framework you will be building upon. Okay, because framework is equally important. It's like a constitution for running a country. Okay, set of rules and protocols. So then these three things are decided, then we can go and we can kick off the automation and we can start doing it. But once we decide these three things, these are the very vital part of planning. Okay, so what I said is three pillars is the tool, the language, and the framework. Okay, so the tool, when it comes to tool, let's go, we have different tools. Okay, we have Selenium, we have Qtp. Okay, lots of tools are there in the market. Okay, so these are all the tools or the Selenium suits or the applications or by which you will be achieving the automation. Okay, second comes to the language. So which language are you working upon? Are you working on Java? Are you working on Python? Are you working on Ruby, on Rails? There are lots of languages you can use while automating. Okay, so tool, there can be tools, different language, there can be different languages, and similarly the framework. Okay, now the framework is something which is which are already there in the market, which you can design by your own, by which you can make some changes here and there in your framework and adopt them. Okay, so these three things should be very clear in our mind when we talk in terms of automation. Okay, so in this session we will be discussing this is the day one, so we will go just quickly over this deck what we have prepared. So what will be the contents today? Okay, so the contents will be like, we will discuss what is the agenda for today, what is the agenda of the day one. Then we will discuss about the automation overview. Okay, what are the different automation techniques, what, how we can automate some application, like the planning part, what I have just, I was just briefing about you. Okay, then we have why Ginger, why we are using this tool Ginger for automation purpose. Okay, what are the what is Ginger, basically the Ginger overview, what we will be discussing in the next part. And the next we will be going through the setup part. Okay, so how to set up Ginger, what is, how to install it, what are the dependencies required, or what actually the prerequisites are before installing Ginger and using it. Okay, so these all things we will be discussing today. And the Ginger terminologies. Okay, so what are the Ginger terminologies, what are different words, or the, we can say the terminologies we will be using while automating something. Okay, so these are the points we will be discussing today. Okay, so let's quickly start with automation overview. Okay, so what do you think, why we need automation? Can anyone, can anyone try this? Any answer, any points, any bullets will be very very much efficient if you will be more interacting, as Jubrail said. So what do you think, why should we go for automation, why should not we do manual testing only?
To execute more faster.
Exactly.
And
Okay,
yes.
what else?
Accuracy,
Sorry,
as additionally accuracy.
accuracy, wow, perfect. Any other points? One is saying faster, another one is saying accuracy. Any other points when it comes to your mind, like why automation, why should we go for automation?
Repeatability, like you can repeat it without much effort, and
Okay,
also,
reusability. Okay,
yeah,
repeated efforts. Okay, perfect.
and also there are certain scenarios which are almost impossible to even test manually. For example,
Okay, okay, okay. So there can be
example
some scenarios.
comparing
Yeah,
files is so difficult manually and error prone.
exactly, exactly. Perfect, perfect example. Okay, some scenarios which are more complex while doing the manual thing, we can do it easily via automation. Perfect. Anything else? Any other things comes in your mind, like why automation? Why industry is moving more towards
Hello,
automation?
can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on. Okay. Fine, perfect. We have got lots of answers, and now I will try to add something more to it. Okay, some toppings over there. What about the scope of the automation? What do you think? Can we enhance or can we increase the scope of the automation if we scope of testing? Sorry, can we enhance the scope of testing if we talk about automation? Perfectly, yes. Why?
Yes.
Because let's suppose you have 50 scenarios, okay, which you have automated. Okay, these 50 scenarios you can run on different browsers. Okay, you can run on Firefox, you can run on Chrome, you can run on IE. So let's suppose you can run on 5 different browsers. So how much the count becomes? From 50 to it becomes 250. Okay, 50 into 5, because you are testing the same number of 50 test cases on different browsers using the automation. Okay, what you have to do, you have to just change the environment, change the browser configuration, and run all the 50 scripts on all the 5 environments. Okay, so in that way you can run those 50 on 5 different browsers, so that becomes 250. So definitely an enhance in the automation scope. You can showcase your client that yes, we have 250 test cases running or 250 scenarios what we have automated, although you have put efforts only for 50, but you are showing the report of 250, because any user, any client can run on different browsers, so you need to test the cross browser as well. Okay, We will see in the sessions how we can achieve that. But definitely a scope enhancer. Okay, we can enhance or increase the scope of testing using automation. So as someone said, like it is way faster than manual. Okay, if you are doing something via manually, it may take more time, may take less time using the automation. Okay, someone said that yes, it has more accuracy. Okay, there the human errors, prone human errors, can be negligible. Okay, if you have automated properly. I will just give an example. Okay, let's suppose you are testing an application, a web application. There is a title of the web page. Okay, and in the title, the developer has made some mistake, some spelling mistake. Okay, while testing manually, you may or may not. Okay, if you are a very perfect and very keen eye, you will be definitely catching the title. Okay, but somewhat most of the times what we do is we used to test the page, the UI, and just forget to check the title. Okay, so that kind of human errors can be eradicated using automation. How? Because if we have a certain verify statements written for automation, that okay, we need to verify first the title. The title should be, in this case, camel case, snake case, whatever case should be there, and should be exactly the same. Okay, so then only
Just
the
want to
script
add,
will.
for example, as
Yeah,
you add the example of title, like if it's a title says why automation, and if automation is spelled as TOIN instead of TION,
yeah,
human eye has tendency to ignore TION and
exactly.
TOIN because we are so used to see first and last letter kind of thing, which
Yes,
only automation can catch 100 out of 100 times. Human eye
exactly.
probably will catch 50 times out of 100.
Yes, 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 perfect. So that's what the thing is, like maybe human can skip that part, but yes, automation will not ever, will never ever skip that, because it's a line of statement. If you have that statement there, that you need to verify the title first and then move forward, then only that script will be moving forward and it will fail. And yes, as perfectly mentioned, that our human tendency is like we can just go for the initials and for the last, because we are in a hurry. We need to test the actual implementation, like the screens are working, the tables and all the things on the page, but the title, which is very important, we have missed that. Okay, so these kind of accuracy, what someone has mentioned about the point, at the automation we get more accuracy, we get more less human errors. Okay, so definitely a good point. Well, very good point added. So that's why the industry is more moving towards automation. Okay, why we are moving? Because we have to enhance the scope. We have to test more. The number of count should be more in less number of time. Okay, what we terms in terms of what we discuss in terms of ROI. Okay, return on investment. We'll discuss about it. So just a quick automation introduction, that yes, automation is nothing but what we used to do manually. We need to write some scripts, some line of statements, some codes in order to automate it. So whatever day-to-day activities you are doing, let's suppose when you log in, you have to do some checks, and you have to check if the server is up or not. Then you need to test some application. These all, whatever you do manually, if you are doing it while writing the code, by writing the line of statements, then you are saying you are doing some automation. Okay, so just a small, but what do you think, as is every time it is used to leverage the manual effort in all the cases? Yes or no? Yes or no? What do you think? If we say automation is used to leverage the manual efforts, like you are minimizing that at the manual efforts, is it every time, like 100% you can leverage the manual efforts?
Not necessarily, because
Okay.
sometimes you need manual testing, especially
Mm-hmm.
exploratory kind of testing.
Okay.
And there are certain things which maybe you won't get ROI. For example,
Okay.
if it takes 1 minute to verify something and it takes me 5 days to automate same scenario, so even if I run that 100 times manually, it will be easier than developing that one
Yes.
minute thing into 5 days. So those calculations are there, and we have to make these checks and balances of what to automate first. Of course, if
Yes.
we can automate 100%, we'll definitely want 100%. But it doesn't do away with all the manual effort forever, because,
Yeah,
of course, automation can't do exploratory first and foremost thing.
exactly. Perfect. Very, very well explained. That we cannot do we cannot automate everything. Okay. There should be some manual scope as well. Why? Because there are multiple factors we will be discussing. Okay, why we should not always jump on automation, we have to do it. Because there can be some scenarios, some rainy day scenarios, where these scenarios will be just executed once in a release or once in a year after all the releases. Okay, some ad hoc scenarios. Okay, as you perfectly mentioned, when we talk about ROI, we should get more returns from what we are investing. So as he said, like you just need to run it once, or it just take 1 minute to run it manually, and we are giving 5 days of effort, okay, for automating it. That's definitely not a worth thing to automate. So these things should be very much clear in our mind when we talk about automation, when we talk about manual. Okay, why? Because whatever investment you are putting, whatever efforts you are putting in automating anything, that should be justified. Okay, and therefore we should not automate everything if it is there. One of the point. Okay, the second point is we should check the stability of the application. Okay, let's suppose you quickly jump on doing the automation, and what happens if the application is broken or the application is not stable? There are some infra issues going on, the web logic is going down, something like that, which crashes the application, and you are jumped to automation. And what happens is, like, you came up to your manager, to your management, that no, I'm not able to do automation because most of the time I have a downtime. Okay, most of the time I see application is down. So in those situations, you should be very clear, like your application is stable or not, what you are automating should be worth or not, it should be justified or not, it should have much good ROI or not. Okay, so these things should be very clear in your mind. Okay, so that we will be discussing. Like the next topic, the automation candidates, what are the good candidates of automation? Okay, why should we not automate everything? Okay, so in that terms, if you are thinking, then only you will be able to get to the good results. Okay. One more point I want to add here is, let's suppose your application is still in a very development phase. Okay. It's not stable. Not stable in means it is getting launched properly, but there are some UI changes going on. Okay. The product is not still clear about whatever the functionalities. Here should be a drop down. Here should be a text box. Here should be a radio button. No, this radio button will not work. There should be a drop down. Okay, if these things are still in development, still in discussion, you should not start automation bluntly. Okay, because what happen is, when you start the automation, when you start doing the automation, you start writing the scripts, you will be having more maintenance than development, because whatever you do today, you have to change it tomorrow. Why? Because yesterday there was a drop down, now they have changed with a radio button. Okay, or there was a text box which is containing 40 liters, now it is become 256 liters. Now I'm not able to, my scripts are failing. Okay, so in these kind of initial phases, you should not doing the automation. Definitely you can go for some checks or something, but you should not go directly automating an application where still the discussion is going on, the product is still not clear about the requirement from the clients and all. If it's a stable application, then only you will start the automation. Okay, so thinking in terms of what are good automation candidates is very, very important. Okay, clear till this point? So one more point I want to add here is the complexity. Okay, so let's suppose there are frames. Now what is frame we will be discussing, or there will be some SVG elements, some image elements, as Suhail has mentioned. Okay, so there's just a quite less difference in the pixels, red, green, blue color, and then only you will be validating it. And it, what happens, out of 100 times, 5 times it always fails. Okay, some flaky test. What is flaky test we will discuss more, but some flaky test cases are there which always fails. Out of 100 times, 5 times, every time, every 5 times it fails. Okay, and why it fails? Because the screen resolution changes or something like that. Okay, so these kind of complex scenarios where we have frames, where we have complex controls, we should not automate it. Okay, because you will be not sure out of 100 which iteration it will be failing. Let's suppose it fails on 87th iteration. Okay, or 94th iteration. How you will be clarifying your client that these 94th interaction or the 94th iteration, 93 times it works fine. Okay, the next time, 94th time, when it executes and it failed, and you will say, okay, this fails out of 5 out of 100 every 5 times. I cannot guarantee that. That doesn't sound good. Okay, so these kind of scenarios you should not automate it, because your reports will be red. Okay, and always the management and the client wants to see the green reports, the
Mhm.
past reports. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. So next point is advantages of automation. This thing we have already discussed much, like why automation is more of advantage of automation. But just one point I want to add here is, when we talk about the advantages, okay, it is more in terms of financial, okay, in terms of more returns, okay, because most of the time what happens is, like, you have a project where you have 40 manual testers. That 40 manual testing efforts can be justified using 5 automation candidates. Okay, a very big statement here. Okay, because here we are talking about less number of people recruiting. Okay, in terms of automation, if 5 persons are doing the automation, they can leverage the manual efforts of 40 candidates. Okay, but as always mentioned, like, manual testing always have a scope there. We cannot automate 100%, so definitely manual testing will always be there. But yes, we need to upgrade our skills. We should not put our efforts, more efforts, in doing the manual if we can automate that. Just a baseline. Okay, the bottom of this the sessions will be, we should not always do manual testing if we can automate it. Okay, but definitely manual
Okay.
will have their scope. So ROI, return on investment, more of a management term here. Okay, why? Because we are putting some investment. Okay, investment in sense we have purchased the tool license. Okay, investment in terms we have hired some resources. Okay? With that we will pay you this much, we will pay you this much. So in terms of investment we can discuss, like, yes, we are giving people this much of financial, and this much we are putting for the tool licensing. Okay, what else? The investment part, what actually we will be doing for the investment part? Okay, one is the tool, like someone said that they have worked on QTP. Okay, which is nothing but UFT. Now the
Mhm.
upgraded form is unified functional testing, UFT, one of the tool used for automation. Okay, but it is a licensed tool. Okay, quite high license tool, so the price is very high for this particular tool. Okay, so you are putting some investment, right, in purchasing the license and doing some. So first of all you will do some POC kind of thing. Okay, proof of concept, like this tool is working fine or not. So putting efforts there in terms of investment, and trying to get some returns over there. So what is return in terms of? Return in terms of leveraging the manual efforts, returns in terms of increasing the automation scope.
Number of deliveries.
Yes, correct. Number of scenarios to automate. Perfect.
Mhm.
So these will be your returns. Okay, so always think in that terms, in any general way. Okay, in any our day-to-day life, whatever we do, whatever we invest, we want more of a return. Okay, and that's why we should always keep in mind that in our project, if we have a working team of 5, we should always think in that terms, we should get more returns than investment. Okay, and that's why the whole concept around, like, why we are doing here, why we are doing the automation. Okay, so the whole concept lies over there only. So this is the first take. So one of the things, as I already mentioned, that the factors. Okay, while we are doing the automation planning. Okay, so the factors, as I already mentioned, the complexity of the application, the stability of the application, availability of the environment. Okay, the application is available only for 2 hours in a day, let's suppose. Then why we are automating it? Because we have just 2 hours of window where we can do manual as well as automation. Okay, so then how come we will be managing, like, after of only 2 hours in a day, and there are 5 or 6 testers? Okay, so how we will be managing the availability of the environment? So So that is also one of the key factors. Okay. The another one is the load capacity on the environment. Let's suppose the environment can only have 4 instances, and you are running 16 instances. You want to run 15 instances, and you have not think upon in that way while automation planning, that we will be having more instances and we have less server bandwidth. Then how we will be managing that? Because the environment will crash ultimately, because you are putting more load what is expected. Okay. And most of the times while running this automation, we used to do parallel executions. With parallel, I mean, say you just launch the scripts and it opens 5 different browsers. Okay. Now a team of 5 running everyone running on 5 instances, it become 25 instances. And the application is too slow, that the page is not getting loaded. You are getting lots of failures in your because you have added a wait. Okay, you have added a wait time, that after this time my execution should start, or that after this this will be my next step, this will be my next step. But even after that particular amount of time, it is not getting loaded. Why? Because there is a lot of load on the different environment from different instances. So these factors should be very well considered: the system requirements, the load, the instances we will be running. Everything we should be planning in the planning meeting only. We should be discussing about these things. So these are the factors. Okay. So maybe out of like 8 or 9 points what I have mentioned, maybe 2 of the points will came in your mind. Oh yes, Pratik in that session mentioned that, right? We have to check for the availability of the environment. Then it's a worth. Okay, we are discussing all these things, believe me, because these things, when there will be these things will be in your mind, definitely it will click when you will be starting the automation, or you will be part of the automation planning meeting. Okay, so always things in that terms, that you are a tester. You need to think out of the boundary conditions, where exactly my application will broke, or what will be the limitations of my application. You need to think in that way, that you have to think always the adverse events, like this: if I do this, what will happen? If I do that, what will happen? When actually this my application will broke. Okay, so these factors should be very well considered while doing the automation. Cool. Okay, next, why Ginger? Okay, the next topic is very interesting, guys. Why we are using this tool, why we are going for this tool, why not other tools, why this tool, Ginger, and what is it basically? So let's just get one idea about, like, it is a tool to automate whatever we are doing the discussions, like automation, no manual, only automation, or some automation, some manual. But why? But why? How will we achieving that? Using a tool. A tool is nothing but a way of doing the leveraging the manual efforts. So let's suppose we are using Ginger. Ginger is a tool to automate. Okay, but why Ginger? So basically, I have this matrix created. Okay, we have done a lot of analysis, me and Jubrel, like the different tools present in our market. Okay, like QTP. Someone said QTP. Someone said Selenium. Okay, we have worked on Selenium, or what is Selenium? I know that. And there comes in our picture our new tool called Ginger. What is Ginger? Why we are using Ginger? Okay. So first, in terms of cost, okay, you can see the QTP is a licensed tool. Okay, QTP is a licensed tool and very expensive. Let's suppose you have a team of 5, so you need to buy a corporate license or an individual license for all the 5 persons. Okay, so definitely not a plus if you are always talking in terms of good ROI. Remember, we have discussed in the previous deck, previous slide, that ROI should be high. So how ROI will be high if you have a license tool? Okay, you should have an open source tool. So Selenium is open source, perfect. Okay, the Ginger is now an open source tool. Okay, it is it is presented currently as open source tool, because you should not you don't require any license or any require any permission to use it. It's open source. It's the code is, even the code is present there. The tool code is also in the GitHub repository, which is an open source. Okay. So anytime anyone can use it, can make any changes by their own, how they want to use it, and it's an open source. So the thing comes in our mind, like, what is open source? The question you should ask me question, what is an open source tool? What does that word mean, open source? So maybe that tool requires some Oracle license, which is the supporting license, but you Apache license or something, but you can manipulate the code. Actually, the code is present to you. The code is given to you. The company has written a different tool, a dedicated tool, but it mark it as an open source. That means the company is sharing their code as an open source in the market, that okay, you can take the code, you can do whatever changes you want as part of your requirement, and you can use it anywhere. We are giving you license. Okay. You are free to use this tool with the code which we have written. Okay. So that is called open source. Yeah. So what do you think? Why people are doing this? They have done some investment over there, right? Like suppose the Ginger tool, they have done a lot of things, lot of efforts, maybe 1 year, 2 year to prepare this tool, and then it became open source. Or let's suppose about Selenium. Let's talk about Selenium. If you check the history of Selenium, it started from around 2002 or 2000. Okay. And now, I mean, since then it is open source, but most of the tool you see in the market, like the robot framework code, okay, another framework which is developed by Nokia Networks in 2008. Okay. But now it is open source. After 2008, they have marked it as an open source. So any thoughts in our mind why people are doing like these things? Why they want to why they actually want to give it as an open source? What is their benefit in that? They have put a lot of effort there, 2 years, 1 year, 3 years in preparing the tool, and then it became open source. Why? What is their benefit in that? Because we all know that they should get some benefit, right? They have something in their mind, like why it became an open source.
I can't say much about Ginger, but different,
Any generic,
different
don't
teams have different agenda. Even for example, Android is open source, and Android comes off Linux, which is again open source. So Android actually is open source. It helped, bringing a lot of developers to platform, and people who are very comfortable with what exactly Android is. So Google actually doesn't charge a dime for Android, but Google has a lot of control over Android, and it made it very popular because people have so Google made money out of this indirectly, not directly.
Yes.
But still, just one example I could give you. And Red Hat, for example, is open source, but Red Hat's enterprise is still is open source, but Red Hat charges a lot for support and everything for that Linux. So the enterprises pay for that support, though they get software for free. So they're making money one way or another. Ginger, I'm sorry, I'm still new to Ginger, so I'm not sure what is the rationale behind it being open source, making it free.
Definitely. We have to.
And a lot of times, and a lot of tools actually, like original Linux, which was benign open source, where it was initially developed, and the developer's intention was not to. It was not a corporation per se, and they didn't want to make money out of it. A lot of such products are there where these developers, individual developers or team of developers, which are benign developers, which are not after money or something, they just want to contribute to the community, they go and make it open source free for everyone. So they never intend to make any money out of that, by the way. Yeah.
Perfect. So one thing which Suhail has mentioned very fine is like the things which they make it open source is in parts. Suppose they have something which is called community edition and something we call it as a professional edition. Okay. If you talk about JetBrains is nowadays very much used in IntelliJ, in PyCharm, and every Android Studio, any IDE, integrated development environment you see, where you actually write some code. The editors basically, they have professional licenses, they have community edition. So in the community edition, anyone can use and do anything in that community edition. But there are some things on top of it you will require license. Okay. Some things in the way that some complex things which you want to do some end-to-end kind of thing, then there will be requirement of professional the version, and you need to download the professional one which requires a license. So one thing is that what the market is currently doing is like they just launch a community edition which anyone can use. It is an open source, but something on top of it, if you want to do some integrations, if you want to do some enhancements, or if you want to do some more integrations with the third party apps or something, then definitely a professional version will be need to be upgraded with license. Okay. So if we are doing giving something, okay, with a license, always nobody will use it, everyone will restrain. Why? Because we don't know about it, and in the demo part or in the pre-sales, nobody is that much flattered like, okay, I will be using this tool. Okay, so what they used to do is they used to provide the community edition. Okay, free, use it as a free, but you will require certain, after certain time you will require some professional things, some licensing things. Okay, so one point is this one. The another point which Suhail has definitely mentioned correct is right, like the Android. Okay, they have marked it as an open source, but after that the applications, the installs and everything, the ads on the applications that give a lot of revenue they give. So these are the different models, okay, business models by which in one way or another where they are getting the revenue. Okay, some organization, what they used to do open source with doing it open source, their intention is that the people should get more idea about their tool, so that the people should more using it, and we should not get more difficulty in hiring those candidates. Because if we are making it as an open source, then only people will be using it, then only people will be adopting it, and then only we will get the required skills of the candidates. Otherwise it's a tool and nobody can use it, so definitely there will be a dependency on this particular persons, that only, okay, these five people only know about this tool, so they have their good dependencies. I don't want that dependency, let's mark it as an open source. So there are different kind of things or business models by which due to which the tools are getting open source. But definitely open source tool can be used with anyone, by anyone and anyway, and you can get the code. Okay, so in that terms we are talking. Now coming to the Ginger, why they have marked it as an open source is like the tool they were using, the tool is nothing but they have the integration of different kind of applications. Okay, target applications we will see. So you can automate a CRM or a Java application, you can automate a web application, you can automate a Unix application, you can automate with database, you can automate with API, backend automation. So all these things when clubbed together becomes a new tool called Ginger, by which you can automate end to end using different target application. So if you talk about QTP, coming back to the next point, the QTP is only used to automate the window based applications. Okay, more and
Yes.
more it is used for window based applications. Like suppose you have a window based application by your organization, you need to get several object repositories and set of objects, so that is only for the window based application, not for the web based applications. Okay, Selenium is never used for window based application, it is only used for web automation. Okay, but Ginger can be used with any kind of target application. Maybe it's a Unix, maybe it's a window based, maybe it's a command prompt, maybe it's a Unix, or maybe it's a API, maybe it's a Java. So these kind of cross platform application testing or automation testing we can use achieve via Ginger. Clear? The second thing, workforce. Okay, as why I was mentioning, the workforce is very much important, because who will be automating it? The workforce, the candidates or the resources. So in QTP we need QTP resources. Okay, in Selenium we need Java or whatever language we are using nowadays. Python with Selenium is also in boom. Okay, so developers who should know Python, who should know Java. We require them. They should have a good coding skills. They should have a good knowledge of Java or Selenium. But in case of Ginger, no such coding knowledge is required. Even you can automate from the day one. Okay, you don't need any coding knowledge. Like I'm very new to coding. I don't know that. So no worries. Even you are a manual tester, you can automate everything using Ginger. No coding required. So this is one of the main advantage. But logic, definitely it will be required. Okay, like you want to apply a loop, you want to run 5 steps again and again and again until some condition is there. So these kind of analytical think, or these kind of uh, brain you should have be using that time. Okay, the logics, how you build the logics. But coding knowledge no required. Like I want to define a variable, that variable type should be int, float or something. These kind of coding knowledge is not required. Okay, although if you have, definitely it's a plus, but not required for Ginger. Okay, clear the cost, the workforce, and the development and maintenance efforts. So in QTP, we have a lot of development efforts. How? Because those who have used QTP, they know that if there is a change in some of the object, okay, what is there on the web, you need to click on the developer option, the get the objects and everything, the properties and everything. So in terms of maintenance, QTP has requires high maintenance. Now it depends on the framework you are using, it depends on the complexity of the framework, but definitely the efforts required for maintenance and development is high in case of QTP. That applies to the same in case of Selenium as well. Okay, because in the Selenium also you will be creating the classes, you will be creating the methods, you will be creating all the details, everything from the scratch. Okay, but here in case of Ginger we have very less efforts in case of development and maintenance. Now how we will look? Okay, we will check out how easy is to automate a particular step in Ginger, how easy to execute it, how easy to maintain the scripts. Okay, now in order to justify these points I will just give you a few bullets. Like you want to add a control, you want to add basically a click operation. Let's suppose you just need to put a drag and drop, just add an action and it will be done. In case of Selenium, you need to first create a driver, then create the element, then perform a click operation on that. So that requires a lot of development. I mean to say, in the layman language, in order to automate a single web page, let's suppose gmail.com. Okay, in order to automate a single Gmail web page, if it requires 80 lines of code, 80 lines of code in Selenium, it will be just a 5 actions which can do the same thing in Ginger. So as I mentioned, in terms of line of code, out of 80 lines, you are doing it via Selenium, you can do it just in the line of 5 lines of code in Ginger. Okay, not line of code, but the actions. Okay. Next point is the scripting part. So definitely in QTP, we will be require the VB scripting knowledge. Okay. VB script is nothing but Visual Basic. Okay. So those who have worked on QTP, they know about what is, I have also worked on QTP, by the way. Okay. So I know much about QTP as well. So I know how much is scripting knowledge and the syntax, the code syntax and the logics, how we can build in QTP is quite more complex and required in case of QTP and also in case of Java, that is Selenium, but not required. As I mentioned, no coding required in Ginger. Okay, just a quick drag and drop kind of things. Just shuffle your actions, run it, and definitely you will be through it. That doesn't mean it doesn't have that capability to expand or to enhance your framework. No, it doesn't mean that if it is no, there is no coding knowledge, no coding required, that doesn't mean that your scripts will be not enhanceable, or it should not be enhanced, or it should not be have more dedicated things. Okay, we have designed that tool Ginger in such a way that it, without coding also, we can do lots of things using our logics and the codes, and you can use that tool in order to expand your framework. Okay, so we will see when we will have a Ginger UI session, okay, look and feel session, then you will get more idea like how actually we are doing that things in our day-to-day life and how we are automating those things. But no coding required in case of Ginger, but in Selenium and QTP definitely coding knowledge will be required, either in terms of VB script or either in terms of Java or the programming language what you're using. The next part is the framework size. Okay, so the framework dependency is there because without framework you cannot automate everything. So you remember three pillars I said in the starting of the session. One is the tool, the automation tool you will be using. The second thing is the language you will be using it. Okay, the third thing is the framework. So now we are discussing about the framework. Okay, so in QTP, the QTP is a tool, automation tool. Language required is VB script. Okay. Now the framework you should be using any framework you have created or in the present in the market. Okay. But that requires a dependency with the framework. Selenium, I hope you have heard about TestNG framework in Java. Okay. Or the robot framework, which is used with Selenium Python. So these are the different frameworks which are present in the market, which you can use it. So these framework dependency is another part. If you talk about tool, either it's a QTP, Selenium or Ginger. If you talk about the language, it can be VB script, Java, Python, Ruby, Perl, C#, any language you can use. And in terms of framework, there can be different frameworks which is used. So QTP can have different framework, Selenium can have different framework, and in Ginger, we have inbuilt reusability framework. What we used to do it via shared repositories. We will discuss about it. So these kind of things easily achievable and does not have a framework dependency. So this is one of the another point. Okay, moving ahead, Ginger overview. So what is the overview of Ginger? Okay, what it is Ginger basically. So Ginger basically is a set of automation tool. That's why we are calling it as an automation tools wrapper, which provides a unique platform. Okay, because you will require a platform. Now what is a platform? What are cross platform? What we will discuss, but it provides a unique platform of automation which can be used with different range of drivers. Okay, which can support number of applications. Okay, so now let's discuss about this sentence, what it is basically. So Ginger is a basically automation tool wrapper. So what is a wrapper? So if you eat anything, you eat a burger, you eat a roll or something, you have a wrapper on it, right? Wrapped by something. So basically we have different libraries. Let's suppose for Java, handling the Java application, you need Java libraries. For web part, you need Selenium libraries. Okay. For Unix, we have mediation libraries. For database, we have SQL libraries. These kind of different libraries are already present in market. Okay, that's why the QTP uses the window based libraries. The Selenium uses the web based Selenium libraries. Okay, so each tool uses its own libraries, but now in Ginger what we have is a set of automation tool which is wrapped by a complete new blanket. Inside that we have different libraries used. So nothing but collating all the different tools present in market, all using those libraries inside a single wrapper, we created Ginger. Why we did it? Because in our end-to-end flow, our flow starts from web application, then it goes to a window-based application, then it go to a Java application, then it goes to API automation, that is backend automation, and then it comes to Unix automation. So in that way, we have different platforms. Now you understand what is a platform? The platform is nothing but on which your application is deployed. Okay, let's suppose you have a window-based application, you have a web-based application, you have a Java application, you have a Unix application. In that way, you can have different platform applications. Okay, so you need to decide which tool you can use in order to automate everything, right? Because you may need to automate web application, you need to automate window based application, Unix automation, API automation. You have to do all in a single pipeline. You need to use this wrapper, which is called Ginger tool. Okay, everyone is clear? If you want to go for a cross platform application automation, then there comes the Ginger, by which you can perform end-to-end automation, where your flow starts from the web, then it goes to API, then it goes to Unix, and so on and so forth. Okay, now comes the different spectrum of Ginger, like why Ginger and what are the Ginger key features. We called it as key features because it is a shared initialization. Now what is a shared initialization? What are common library functions? Okay, how we can do data reporting, okay, tracking, supporting, how we can integrate it with database, how we can do it via web service or API automation, how we can integrate via Unix or Linux. So these all 6 points, what are there? Okay, these 6 points are nothing but the key features of the Ginger repository or your Ginger tool, that you can have a shared initialization. Now the shared initializations means the reusability part. The same number of things you have done the automation, you can reuse them to automate several other things. That is called the shared initialization. It's kind of a shared things which can be used with different kind of flows. Just to justify my statement, let's suppose, okay, let me give a very small example. Okay, you have to create a customer. Okay, you have to create a customer with different configurations. Okay, one customer is located to Australia, the another customer is located to US, the another customer is located to India. Now these three customers have different addresses, geographical location. One is in Australia, one is in US, one is in India. Okay, the same thing you automated to create a customer flow, you are using for all these three combinations. This is called shared initialization. Just a basic thing of shared initialization, that using the same number of steps for different combination of data. Getting my point? In that way, we are reusing the same scripts what we have developed. That is called shared initialization. Okay, because you initialize it
Okay.
once
Okay.
and you use it via shared basis. It's very just a minute example, but that can be enhanced to any level. Okay, so this is one of the key feature of Ginger, that you have a shared initialization. You initialize it once and use it at the shared locations. Then second thing comes is the common library functions. Okay, these common library functions are nothing but the reusable code, or the number of the line of statements you have written. You can use it as a common library function that can be used it anywhere. For example, I'm justifying my all each and every point with an example. The first one you already got, shared initialization. The second one is common library function, means the functions which you are using again and again. Let's suppose login. At for each flow you need to log in, right? For example, you are in a banking domain, okay, and you require to check the balance in your account. What you will do, you have to log in first, correct? You need
Yes.
you need to make a payment, you need to log in first. Okay, you need to transfer money to someone, to your friend, you need to add a beneficiary, you need to log in first. So every time you perform a transaction, you need to do login. So login is nothing but a common library function you will be using before each flow as a prerequisite. These kind of things we can create in Ginger, called common library functions. You want to run those functions as a prerequisite of each and every flow. We can mark them as a common library functions. Okay, so that we can define in Ginger. The third part, the third feature is tracking, supporting, data reporting. Okay, that means you have a very quiet and very fine way of reporting of supporting the documents, the data, and the tracking part. Let's suppose you have automated 50 scenarios. Okay. You run 50 scenarios every day. You want to get a good report, HTML report. Okay. That, okay, these 50 scenarios executed in this amount of time, and this is the status, pass, fail, or whatever it is. So in that way, we have a good tracking of our automation scope. Okay, because in the planning meeting, we have decided we will be automating 50 scenarios. Now these 50 scenarios need to be executed daily. Okay, because we want to get a good ROI. Okay, so every day we want to run these 50 scenarios and get a good report, get a good tracking of these scenarios. That can be easily achieved via Ginger. Okay, so in good support in terms of tracking, reporting, and supporting data. Now, what is supporting data? Supporting data is something, let's suppose at the 5th step your automation failed. So you should get good supporting data as a screenshot. Okay, the scenario failed at 5th step due to this error, and this is the screenshot. This is called the supporting data. So that is very easily achieved in case of Ginger, because most of the times it requires a lot of effort to analyze the root cause. We call it as a RCA, root cause analysis, why automation failed. If you don't have supporting data which will justify your failure, you will not actually get it why it failed, because every time you will not be available on the screen, right? You are seeing the flow on your screen. It's not required. It can be scheduled at 7 a.m. in the morning. Okay, so every day 7 a.m. in the morning it executes, whether you are in office, you have logged in your system, yes, no, doesn't matter. You have scheduled it for 7 a.m. in the morning, and in the 7 a.m. only it failed. Okay, so at 10 a.m. in the morning when you came to office, you should be very much clear why my automation failed, and that you can get only via supporting data.
Okay.
Clear? So good support in terms of tracking, supporting, and reporting of data. And then we have database integration. So someone said like database we cannot integrate. No, we can integrate it, but only to the environments where actually we have the data access. Okay, so database testing, definitely we can integrate it, but only wherever it is applicable. And in 70 or 80%, people don't touch database. Okay, because if there's something mishappened with the database, it will create a lot of issues there. Okay, but definitely if we have database validation intact, definitely it's a plus for us, because whatever you see on the UI on your screen is coming from database some way or other way, right? So you need to validate what is there in the database, what is there in the UI. That should always match. These kind of testing you will have to do, okay, in upcoming times. So that manual testing can be leveraged using automation when we have a database support, and Ginger readily supports this database testing. Okay, cool. And then what is web services? Web services is nothing but API automation. Okay, API automation using REST, SOAP. These kind of API automation is also supported by Ginger, where we can actually integrate our flows with API. So API automation is nothing but when you want to execute a flow without showing on the UI. Okay, you just run a request. Okay, what is a request we will discuss. You just turn on a request and you get a response, okay, from the server, but that response is not on the UI. It is doesn't have anything with the UI. It is just a service, you can say, you called on backend. Okay, so nothing you will see on the UI. It's just the request and response you fire over XML bridge. Okay, and that you get the response. This is called API automation. Okay, we will discuss about that thing in detail when we go to the backend automation. but it is something which you cannot see on the UI. Okay, so let's suppose you want to create a customer. As previously we have taken the example, like I have created a customer which is residing in Australia, another customer which we have created which is residing in US, and another customer which we have created which is residing in India. 3 customers. So these 3 customers either can be created via UI, okay, user interface we called it. That is nothing but on the screen you will see a text box where you can provide the first name, last name, address, city, pin code, and everything, right? This is the first way of creating a customer. The another way of creating a customer is don't have a UI screen, but the service you click on the submit button hit a particular endpoint or a server. Okay, so that thing we can do in the back end via automation using Ginger, that we can call that service without showing on the UI. Nothing will be appeared on the UI, but you will be calling that service in the backend. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
using an endpoint. We called it as an endpoint because this is the endpoint where actually we want to hit some service so that we can get a response whatever request we have sent. Okay, so in the request part, maybe we will say send any data like our name, first name, last name, address, anything we will be providing in the request, and we will get a response. That response can be a success or a failure or unauthorized access or something. Okay, but you just understand whatever UI things you see on the screen hits a service at the backend. We called it API. Okay. So this is called API, where actually we hit the service in the backend. We don't require a UI for that. User interface is not required. Just a backend service where it consumes a request and gives you a response. Okay, this is called web services or API. So that is also supported by Ginger. And further we have Unix and Linux. Okay, so maybe some part, maybe not today in the today's world, but in the previous times we have mainframe and other such languages and tools which require Unix support as well. Okay, you may be required to pass some commands on the Unix environment, okay, in order to run the job. So that also we can use it, we can achieve via Ginger. So all this cross platform, maybe it's a database, maybe it's a API, maybe it's a Unix, Linux, or maybe any other cross platform can be achieved, cross platform automation can be achieved using this tool Ginger, because it's a wrapper. It's nothing but it's a automation tools wrapper which is used for cross platform application. You can automate any platform using this tool Ginger, and you can integrate them. The beauty of this is you can integrate them with each other. Okay, otherwise what you can do is, okay, I have window as well as web based application in my project. So for window I will use qtp. I already have license, I will use qtp. For web based I will use selenium. Why we should not do that? Because we should have a single tool which supports both windows as well as web automation. And at the same time, because your flow starts from a web application, then it go to window based application. Whatever customer you have created on the web UI, that you want to check it on your window based application as well. How you can do it in a single way? Because you have a two different tool. One is qtp, one is selenium. How you will integrate them? No need to worry, we have Ginger where we can integrate cross platform applications using a single click. You just click on one button, it will start from window based, it will go to web, it will go to Unix, it will validate in the database, it will go into Java, it will go to anywhere. Clear?
Clear.
Yeah, perfect, cool. So now we have described all these features of Ginger, but in detail. In order to support every point, we have several sub bullet points where we can say that Ginger supports scheduling. Okay, scheduling, what we used to do is we can schedule the flow to a particular time. Let's suppose 7 a.m. in the morning, and every 7 a.m. in the morning it will automatically execute it. So basically what you are doing, you can scheduling the flow at a particular time when you are actually not present in that system. Okay, by that we can have a high usability of our script. Our script can be usable in a very good way, and we can reduce the cost, right? So in that way it is very much required nowadays, because whatever you will be automating, you will be running at a remote time, you will not run at a particular time. Okay, it depends on you. I don't want to run it now. I want to run it at 7 a.m. in the morning or 12 in the night.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, so you can schedule it. Further, we have parallel execution. So what is parallel execution? It is running on different browsers parallelly, you can say, or different instances parallelly. Okay, so by parallel execution, I was saying we can enhance the scope. You remember in this initial part, we have already discussed that we can enhance the scope using parallel execution. So in that way, our application under test can be tested on different instances at the same time. We call it as parallel execution. Okay, in that we can have shorter TTM. Anyone knows what is TTM? Shorter TTM, it's time to market.
Yeah.
Okay, TTM is
Time.
short form of time to market. Now what does that mean, time to market? These are very much used, very frequently used terms. Okay, ROI, TTM, this is very much good terms. You can use it in your presentations, on in your you can say the discussions, automation planning discussions, and everywhere. TTM is time to market. That means whatever things you are developing, how much time it required to take it to the market. Okay, let's suppose you have developed a tool. Okay, and that tool required 3 years to go in the market. Okay, like Google started something today and it will require 3 years to actually reach the market, to actually reach the end user. That is called TTM, time to market. Okay, so whatever, the TTM should be very less, the ROI should be very high. Okay, the time to market should be very less, because otherwise in 2 years you are just developing the automation script. When you're using it, no use of it, right? If 2 years you require only to build your automation, when will you actually get the returns from it? Because you have a very high TTM, time to market is very high. We should always have less TTM, because the time to market, the things to get deployed or used by the end user should be very less. The time to market should be very less. That's why we can achieve it using parallel execution. Clear, everyone? What is TTM, time to market? We have to be very much quick, okay, in terms of developing the scripts, in terms of using the script, so that we can have a shorter TTM. Okay, the next point is the reusability. The reusability of the script means how much reuse you do your scripts. Okay, let's suppose you have 50 test cases, how much you are reusing them out of them. As I mentioned, these are linked to the above point, common library function. Reusability point is always related to common library function, where you are reusing the same thing. Now for each flow you need a login. You will not write login again and again and again and again 50 times. You will write the login code only once, and it will be used for all the 50 test cases. Clear? So that is reusability. Reusability is nothing but reusing the same line of code again and again and again. Okay, because if you write login 50 times, what it is mean, what does it mean? You have a very lengthy code that you are not reusing your existing functionalities or existing common libraries.
Mhm.
Clear? So you will always create a code which will be reusable, which can be reused by anyone. Okay. Let's suppose you create customer flow. Okay. Now the same create customer flow will be executed for person residing having address of Australia, for customer having address of US, or for customer having address of India. This is reusability. That same customer is created using the same line of code, just we have changed the address. You just change the address, the same create customer will execute, different customers will be created. This is called reusability. We will not create 3 create customer flows in this case. Okay, you don't need to create the customer with Australia having the address of US. No, the create customer flow will be common. Just you need to change the parameters and reusing the same code. Okay, in that way we can have a good agile efficiency. Now what is agile efficiency? So agile basically is whatever you develop, you divide them in shorter chunks. Okay, you divide them in short features or in chunks so that it can be getting used by the customer. It should not be that you have put an effort of 2 years and then only it comes to the market and then client is using the whole application. Instead of that, you can provide some features or some functionalities to the customer, so that while you are developing the other functionalities, customer can at least use the developed functionalities, at least starting getting the essence of the application, what it will do, some basic functionalities, and then we will add the complex functionalities. Okay, yes, in the customer can also buy a device, something like that, but that complex functionality will be provided in subsequent releases. But currently we have just provided the create customer, so that customer can actually can basically just start creating the customers. That is called agile. You have a pipeline where you are just providing few things to the customer, so not the whole application, but at least he will be getting some idea about the application, like okay, these things will be there and these complex things will be upcoming, but yes, I know something about that. Okay, module by module you can just provide few things so that he can just get an idea. In case of waterfall, previously we have waterfall, right? So in the waterfall, what happens is customer is sitting idle. He doesn't have any access. He doesn't have anything. After 3 months, you provide a release in which he get the whole application.
Mhm.
Okay. So then again, it comes to ROI, it comes to TTM, time to market. Okay. These are things are related with agile, that in agile, we are more focused on providing the small testable values or small chunks of modules of data which is actually used by the customer, and then we will be more providing in the upcoming releases. Okay, so if we are reusing the same functionalities again and again, definitely we will get a good agile efficiency. Okay, because you are reusing the code again and again, that means that code can be reused for the next module. Login can be used for creating the payment beneficiary as well. Login can be used to make the payment as well. However, we created login for check balance. We have created login for check balance, right? To check the balance. But that same login is used for adding the beneficiary, for adding the for doing the payment, right? So in that way, we are more towards agile efficiency, and we are doing great in terms of providing the good ROI in less TTM, short time to market. Okay. Then comes to end-to-end scenarios. So guys, end-to-end scenarios are very important. As I mentioned, we have a application or we have a flow where we are starting from the create customer from a web UI, then it goes to window based application, then it goes to Unix, then it goes to database. These kind of end-to-end scenarios we need to automate at runtime. Okay, so in that we have to be very much pro in writing the automation script so that our pipeline should be executed one by one after the other. Otherwise, only web will execute and then we are waiting. Then we came to office, oh, it stopped. Then we have to start from window based. Window based is done, then we have to go to Unix. Then we have to do API, then we have to database. These things we want to run via a single click. We don't need to execute them differently on different using different tool. Okay, so using a single click, one click automation, it will be executed end to end. We call it as end to end. Why? Because from this end to this end it should be executed very fluently. It should not stop only after executing the web part, and for window based we have to again execute it, not like that. So end-to-end scenarios can be automated using Ginger, which has complex functionalities. Now the complexity comes in the integration part, right? How web will understand, okay, web part is done and we have to switch to window. How window-based application will understand, okay, window part is done and we have to move to Unix. How Unix will understand that Unix part is done and we need to move to database. These integrations are quite complex, and that makes it easy when we are automating using Ginger, that these end-to-end automation can be run in a single click. That is called the end-to-end scenario support using Ginger, and we can achieve that these complex functionalities using Ginger very easily. Okay, then comes the service based engagement. So service based engagement is nothing but more of a licensing card. So it's a license free, as we have already told that it is open source, therefore widely used in data warehouses and business intelligence test cases, BI test cases, where actually we will be doing some analytical data comparison or analytical data statistics. Okay, as it's a license free, then definitely can be used in any industry, any organization, any tool by anyone. Clear? So these are all the salient features what we can say is of Ginger, that we can schedule it at any moment, we can do parallel execution, we can achieve reusability using common library function, we can automate end-to-end scenarios, we can do service-based engagement as it's a license free. Okay, these kind of things we can easily achieve via Ginger. Thank you. Thanks a lot.